You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we have a special guest with us for an all-new anime roundtable. She is our illustrious editor-in-chief over at In Between Drafts. It's Allison Johnson. Hi, Allie.
Hi, thank you for having me back again.
Allie, I think at this point, and maybe you disagree, but I think at this point, I would say, maybe Travis disagrees, that you have long graduated from special guest to Rookie Pirate Radio co-host for all things non-One Piece related, correct? Is that fair?
It feels fair, but I also feel like to make it legitimate, you should let me just guest on a One Piece episode completely blind.
No, I mean, you did do that. You did do that when we talked about getting started.
Sure, but I mean, like, on a manga chapter, I want to come in with no context.
We're so far away from those days. I mean, at this rate.
We don't even have a manga chapter.
But no, Allie, we always love having you here because you are as passionate about anime and manga as anyone else I know. Very happy that the two of you were able to have Kate Sanchez on the other week, talking about Boys Love Anime. I loved listening to that episode. It was super fun. I learned a lot. I feel I could hear Travis learning in that conversation. I was too, of all these recommendations. I was like, I don't know where to begin, but it was really great. But Travis, I know we always got to make sure the listeners have a way to connect with us. So before we get into our anime roundtable for Skip and Loafer, Travis, how can our listeners connect with us and let us know what they think about all the anime and manga topics we're talking about?
Well, as you say, John, sometimes we just love to hear from the listeners. Sometimes we need to be sure that the recommendations that we're making are actually working for people. Speaking of the Boys Loves episode, I would love to hear what people tried from that, because there was a lot of recommendations there, and I know I'm going to be trying some myself. But the best way to get in touch with us, a couple of good ways. First off, we have an email address. That's rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. rookiepirateradio@gmail.com.
Travis, I want to hear it one more time, please.
One more time, rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. Send us a message, give us some feedback. When we do our manga review chapters with Allie and she doesn't know what's going on, you can correct her there. But if you really want to get in on the discussion, on the ground floor of whatever we're talking about, the best thing to do is to join our Discord server, which is linked in the show notes. And that Discord server isn't just to talk about One Piece or even just anime and manga, but all the things you can find us talking about on InBetweenDrafts.com, from film to TV to books to games. We're doing all kinds of exciting things, having conversations in there basically all the time. And especially if you are a One Piece fan, there's a lot of chatter going on as we all get very anxious for the manga to come back.
Absolutely. And the anime is hot and on fire at the moment. So there's a lot to love and discover there. But okay, let's get into our anime roundtable, Skip and Loafer. Skip and Loafer is a new slice of life anime series from PA Works. It recently concluded its first season. It was adapted from the manga of the same name, written and illustrated by Misaki Takamatsu. And it follows the story of a 15-year-old overachiever named Mitsumi Iwakura, who, after growing up in a small town out in the countryside, she moves to Tokyo in order to start high school and achieve her super relatable dream of becoming a government official. I always get a crack at that. She is essentially a Japanese Leslie Knope for all of you Parks and Rec fans out there. On her first day of school, however, she underestimates the complicated Tokyo subway system, I've been there, and is in danger of missing class completely. But she is saved by a laid-back and very handsome schoolmate, Susuke Shima, and the two of them strike up an unlikely friendship with perhaps the potential for something even deeper and more long-lasting. The first 12 episodes of Skip and Loafer are now available to stream on Crunchyroll. Allie, we'll start with you. What did you think of the first season of Skip and Loafer? We, of course, will not spoil anything, especially for the folks who have not watched the anime quite yet.
So I've been pretty loud about this elsewhere, but I adore this anime. And I knew I was going to adore it, not even at the end of the first episode, but by the time the opening credits ended. There's just a very particular brand of anime, brand of show, but specifically anime that appeals to me. And this kind of soft focus championship of a teenage girl who maybe doesn't fit the bill of what popularity usually entails, is definitely an appealing thing to me, especially in the coming of age story structure. But I just thought this was one of the more compassionate slice of life shows that I've seen, and it handles being a teenager with a lot of grace and delicacy, and never talks down to the characters, even as they're kind of having these heightened emotions. I mean, everything from the voice acting to the character design to the background animation. I just thought it was one of the most, again, it's not simple, but it's the way it's rendered has this kind of simplistic storybook quality, and I just thought it was a magical little experience. If it really speaks to how good this season or this year of anime has been, that I'm not like ready to call it my number one overall, but it is really close, and it is often competing for that first spot. There are so many little aspects of this show that I could go on tangents about, and hopefully will in this episode.
That's why we're here. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, just because of how much this anime sticks out in a season filled with your Hell's Paradises and your Demon Slayers, Swordsmith Village arcs. I mean, there are plenty other romantic kind of comedies and slice of life animes that are out there, but Skip and Loafer has definitely been reaching above in terms of online chatter and building up fans. But Travis, you are very new to the season. You binged the whole thing this week. I think the whole thing. Maybe you'll correct me. And while Ali and I, we watched it week to week, we had to suffer in between episodes. But Travis, did you suffer while you were watching this anime, or are you team Skip and Loafer? Where you at?
Definitely didn't suffer. And I usually don't do the slice of life thing, admittedly. A lot of the times it just kind of falls under my radar. But I have to say, first off, it is a very beautifully animated show. PA Works just bring in the A game. They're usually very good. I watched a couple of years back, we had Aquatope on White Sand, which was just a magnificent, gorgeous anime that didn't end the way that I would have liked to see it end, but just gorgeous from top to bottom. And I think Skip and Loafer, despite being kind of just this school setting and environment, it's genuinely just eye candy to watch at all times. It knows exactly when to deploy just these really beautiful moments, these landscape shots, even down to their backgrounds. It's a very pretty show to watch, which makes it all the more better that it is just really a wholesome time. For me, the big takeaway has been that I kind of appreciate that these characters, despite having these very defined personalities, don't sit with their faults very much. A lot of the first part of the season, which is where I've spent most of my time right now, is in establishing how this little group of friends comes together. And it usually takes the form of having to get over some kind of hang-up they've brought with them into high school. And they slowly start to do that through these relationships. And you compare that to, even, I think about me when I was in high school. I don't think I could get over my hangups as well as these kids do, honestly. And it's kind of heartwarming to see just what a smile and a little bit of just spunk can do to let warm people up to you and to the people around you. And they're just an adorable little gang of friends.
Yeah, wholesome is the word that I always see thrown around for this anime. I think it fits quite nicely. Glad you mentioned PA Works there. PA Works, which I haven't seen a lot of their programming. They're known for doing a lot of original work. So it's interesting to see Skip and Loafer, which is an adaptation. Their other anime this year was Buddy Daddies, which we've already talked about on this show. I think we were all, I don't know if Travis, you watched Buddy Daddies, I forget. But I know Ali and I watched Buddy Daddies and liked it a good bit. And yeah, this is definitely, I haven't seen a lot of other PA Works stuff. The other one that I know that I want to see at some point is The Day I Became a God. I don't know if there was any other one, Ali, that you would recommend people. But that said, Skip and Loafer, The anime I kept thinking about while I was watching this week to week, in terms of older anime, and not even older anime, but in fact, one from last year, Shikimori is not just another cutie. The thing about both of these anime that they have in common that I appreciate is they're ultimately about how high school friends relate to each other. They're about the dynamics of high school friend groups. I know Horimiya is usually cited as one of the anime that's really good at that. It's sort of like, okay, here's your central romance, but here are the supporting characters, and here are how the friends relate to each other and everything. I think the secret for me to Skip and Loafer is that you do have your mains, you do have Mitsumi and Susuke, and you kind of see how they grow closer together in a platonic way. I mean, this is not like a, who's going to confess first kind of romance. It's way more laid back. It's way more focused on characters. And I think that's why, for me, the key thing about this anime working comes down to Mika Igashira, who is one of the first sort of friends/frenemies that Mitsumi makes. And I think this is where the whole anime really revolves, because she's the source of a lot of conflict here. She has a huge crush on Susuke, and she is kind of a bad person at first. When we first meet her, she is kind of using Mitsumi, looking down on her. We learn more about her past, and there are some interesting elements to her backstory and what this anime is trying to say about, for example, fat shaming, and certain things that, certainly like the hot button issue and topics come into this anime all the time. We have Nao-chan, who is Mitsumi's aunt, who is a trans character. So we have trans representation for her. We have trans representation for one of Mitsumi's childhood friends, her childhood best friend, who we get to meet and hang out with, and that's Fumino. So I think that's like the key element of the anime working. It is laid back, it is wholesome and soft, and I think we agree that the anime is very beautiful. But for me, it's the character work that makes it shine a lot. So that's why for me, Skip and Loafer, every week, I wanted to get all cozy with this anime and have a nice time and enjoy it. But I always felt like I was coming away from it with a good message, and it usually came down to how Mitsumi relates with her friends and how she is able to learn from them, and they're able to learn from her. And it's a surprising anime in that respect. It's very good at surprising us, and so that's why I'm a big fan.
So you bring up the things like the representation and some of the more modern issues, and I have to agree with you. And I would even go so far as to say that this anime, more so than a lot of what I've seen, really feels like it's reflecting a more Gen Z perspective on kind of those issues. There's not a lot of the Nao-chan, for example. She just exists in this world. There's a brief moment where there's a little bit of conflict on a train very early on in the second episode, but the show itself doesn't dwell on this. It doesn't necessarily need to present trauma. It just simply makes and normalizes this in a way that I don't think anime of like even 5 years ago would do. There's no sense of a very special episode going on here. There's no like attempts to like try to super moralize the situation.
It doesn't do the domestic girlfriend thing where they end up being like a Yakuza boss for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's less grandstanding and more normalizing, I would say, just across the board.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the fact that they use characters like Nao and Igashira and allowed them to have like these brief moments of connection, and showing how it's these two characters who have been either like publicly shamed by society, and how they are able to relate without even spelling that out, but just showing how maybe they'd be drawn into one another's orbit is really interesting to me. And again, how they kind of take a very patient, understated type of storytelling. It's very much told through the visuals or through quiet moments, and less so, like you guys have been saying, in your face or very like special episode moment. It's all kind of shown through a lens of, just this kind of compassionate group of people who are all learning through just being around each other. And it's odd because I feel like one of the best to me comparisons is both the show Toradora, which is from like the mid 2000s, so it clearly has like a very different kind of moral center, but also, and I hate throwing this comparison around because I feel like it's such a go-to, especially for people who are just getting into animation, but this is maybe the show that's felt the closest to like a Ghibli film to me. And I do think it's because of that patience and storytelling and the way that it kind of has this very distinctive visual language in which it kind of allows their characters to grow through. And I just, again, it's those little moments. Just like a character like Igashira shouldn't be the character that you walk away having such feelings for, because she is presented as like the quote unquote antagonist at first. But the show just does such a tremendous job at fleshing her out and making her her own individual person. And by the end, she's one of my favorite characters.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of that too, I think like two of the characters that I loved seeing at the forefront here in certain episodes were Makoto Kurume and Yuzuki Murashige. And so Murashige is this like very conventionally attractive, beautiful, blonde. But she's also very nice. And Kurume kind of like initially perceives her as like, oh, she's like a mean girl kind of archetype. And that, I think that's to what Travis, you were saying about how this kind of relates to Gen Z in the sense that sometimes like the archetypes are subverted. Although I would say that on the note, Ali, you mentioned about the Studio Ghibli quality, this also has like a dreamlike, timeless appeal to it. So then when it comes to like the animation, making all this feel a little bit dreamlike, you also have these like grounded conflicts and, sparking relationships between characters. So when Kurume like kind of realizes that Murashige is a genuine person, like she's not just a pretty face, she's also very smart and very kind and, to borrow a word, compassionate. And so like seeing the way that she initially like wrote somebody off because she didn't think she could be friends with them, I certainly like walked away from that being like, yeah, this is a very instructive kind of like high school anime that even I of course that people who are not in high school can also appreciate because it's instructive on other real world life lessons too. And I just want to say we've been dancing around it. Mitsumi just makes me smile like so easily. I love the way that she is animated. I love the design of her character. She's not like the conventional, typical, normative anime character. She's so unique. She is, dare I say it, iconic. And so I love her so much. And Shima, of course, is like such a perfect complement to her whole look and appeal as well.
I love Mitsumi so much. I saw somebody compare her, I think, to like the character of Boji from Ranking of Kings, and that there's just this level of earnestness to their characters that make them just so to the core good people. And Mitsumi, as we see, like I hate to even say mess up, because really she just like suffers from a little bit of being naive and maybe kind of sticks her foot in her mouth every once in a while, but she just approaches the world with such a level of good-natured enthusiasm that, again, like you said, it's represented in her animation. Also, I think you can tell when an animator loves to animate a certain character, and you can see it in her facial expressions down to like every kind of emotion. I just adore her, and I think we need more protagonists like her. And I think she adds to that timeless appeal that you were mentioning of, because she just, again, baseline is a strong individual character who represents like kind of the time that she's in, while also engaging with a lot of like, the things that make characters so appealing to begin with. I love her. I love her and Shima so much. I am rooting for them as friends, and I love their platonic friendship, and I'm happy to see where else it goes. Travis, I'm curious, because again, you're not really like, you don't usually veer into slice of life, or it's not usually the stuff that you're going to mess with most often. But if a character like her is exciting to see, because I feel like you don't see her in other shows either, no matter the genre.
So the Leslie Knope energy, I think, is an apt comparison when John said that before, because she's almost like a force of nature. She literally just blows in. I was gonna say breezes in, but that's not even apt. Like it really is like she blows the doors wide open and immediately captured everyone's attention. And you wouldn't expect that, usually with the character background. She kind of comes from a rural area. And that's kind of like supposed to be the unsuspecting part of her character design, is that it reflects that a little bit. So to me, it's kind of funny that you make that comparison like as a slice of life thing, because to me it's almost shonen protagonist energy.
Well, it's technically seinen in terms of like it's I think it's all appeal, but it is supposed to mainly appeal to young boys.
Yeah, usually you would see that. There's this very you hear her talk about her dreams and her ambitions, and it kind of reflects in everything she's trying to do. If we could get her to say "believe it," she would just be Naruto. In some respects,
that's the marketing hook. It's like, do you want to watch Leslie Knope as a teenager and it's anime? Here is Skip and Loafer.
Yeah, and it's compelling because she knows what she wants, but the entire point is not just the journey. It's literally her learning how to get there. She has noble intentions, but now needs the experience, and she knows that. That's the other fun thing is as much as she has, she's learning through these experiences. She's learning how to interact with people. She's experiencing parts of the world that to her friends are completely normal. I love when Shima asks her about Shibuya in a scene, and they have a little conversation about it, and we'll talk about him in a moment. But just the conversation about something as trivial as being in the city. But for her, it's a brand new experience, and she doesn't immediately, say, "Oh, I love it" or anything like that. It's a much more measured and thoughtful approach, because to her, she still understands that she has to learn things. A single day's experience is not going to make her the leader that she wants to be. She has to learn and grow and make and kind of accept that she's going to make mistakes and stuff. And it's very plucky. But it's not so much where it's too much saccharine to be kind of overwhelming. It's in that right sweet spot where most of the tension for jokes and everything comes from just seeing where she overcorrects.
But it's never at her expense.
Yeah, exactly.
Never. She's not a punchline. Even when she comes in tired because she stayed up all night, and you're like, oh, of course you did, because that's the kind of person you are. It's always just on that edge of admirable. Like, that it was never like an irresponsibility. Instead, it's, she's almost aspirational when it comes to that little bit of determination that shines through and everything.
I would argue she is very aspirational, and I don't think this is like really spoiler territory, but I do think it was a revealing moment for me. Is when she's talking to a student council member, and the student council member, to help her, shows her how she takes her notes and organizes her day. And it's ridiculous. Like, it is absolutely an obscene level of scheduling. But to me, in my brain, I was like, oh, man, I wish I possessed some of that.
Justice for Takamine, by the way, who I think, if I have not read the manga, I am very tempted to start the manga because of this and to see how it's going. And I just want more Takamine. I really do.
Yeah, I really enjoy that character quite a bit. But again, it shows you how, Mitsumi walks away from that interaction, and you kind of see as she learns to implement a level of scheduling into her life while also allowing for friendships to develop and kind of show how she can learn from the other's mistakes. And here I am, a full adult, looking at it and being like, oh, I should do that too, which is not the message. And just to your point about like her enjoying the city and kind of like how the show is never using her as a punchline, I kind of love how it shows how everybody around her learns to enjoy things more through her own enjoyment. Like, as something as silly as her getting a Starbucks drink, and it shows the two friends with her like fully embracing, fully happy to watch her joy. I think that's such a nice difference for the show to do, to kind of again show how somebody's palpable joy can actually make other people's happier.
I love that. Yeah. I think if the scene that I pick out whenever I think of this anime and I want to talk about it with someone very much is the scene where they're doing karaoke. And it really sums up really how this anime works and what this anime is trying to do in its storytelling, because it's a scene where we find Mitsumi in this situation where she wants to make a good impression. She's just getting to know these people. She wants to become friends with them. And this is, her chance. It's a lot of pressure. It's kind of like when you're performing and you're on stage. And this is a character who, as we've mentioned, makes plenty of mistakes. The series begins with her making a huge mistake, but it's also an anime about her successes and her victories, the little victories. I think that is really what brings in the Leslie Knope thing, because that is a construct, a recipe for success. And the karaoke thing, it starts off as like almost an embarrassing kind of cringe thing, because I think a lot of like us Westerners are like, what is going on? Why is she singing this weird kind of song? But it turns into a victory because it's a song that everybody knows from their childhood. And so what we're witnessing is this very perceptive 15-year-old girl showing that she's smart enough to put others before her in a way to grow closer to them. And that is what starts to attract all of these people into her orbit. It reminds me of my own high school experience when I would have friends, and I would have those friends who had crushes and on like various people, and they're like, how do I become friends with them, or how do I get them to go out with me? And I always gave the same advice. It's always like, it's a better version of like be yourself, but it's sort of like be your best self. Always put people ahead of you. Don't prioritize crushes and relationships, but just be a good person to other people, and your orbit will naturally attract the kind of people that you will grow closer to in whatever relationship that may take, whether it's romance, where it's a very deep and meaningful friendship. I also recommend the movie Past Lives on that note. Also, I do want to shout out, of course, Tomoyo Kurosawa, who is the voice actor here. Ulti from One Piece, if we can bring One Piece into it. But she also voices Vash in Trigun Stampede, for what it's worth. And she just does such excellent work with Mitsumi. I just think Mitsumi, it also, and on top of the animation, is just such a wonderful, like, it's such a character that like the voice acting could be a little bit grating if handled badly. I could easily imagine it, but that never happened for me at all.
Who does she voice in Trigun Stampede?
Vash.
Okay, so I did not know this. Wonderful. But also, oddly enough, I was going to compare this character to Vash, but then I sat on it because I was like, they won't get it and I won't be able to explain it. But it was part of the whole running thing. We see it in the first episode with Mitsumi running and racing to get to school. We see in the last episode of Trigun and the whole line about like, I'm just going to keep running and running until I reach my goals. So like, I did think there was a third line there, but again, I was like, I'm not going to mention it.
You're conscious. No. You had seen the words, you'd seen her name, but you just, yeah. Didn't
I was like,
there.
in my head, it made sense, but I was like, how do I verbalize it in a way that people are like, okay, clearly she should stick only to writing and not like speaking her thoughts aloud. But no, her voice acting is tremendous, and I think plays a lot into creating the charisma that she kind of like bounds into the screen with.
All right. Any last thoughts on Skippin' Loafer? Anything we did not mention? I know, Travis, you mentioned Shima. Maybe there was one other thing you wanted to get to him. I mean, there's so much to talk about with Shima, of course.
Yeah, and it's tricky because talking about Shima, the other half of this little friendship duo, feels more spoilery, honestly. Because he's a very different force in this little friend group, but I really, really like how they've handled him, because it's clear what's happening with his character throughout the season, but we don't necessarily get to spend a lot of time in his head specifically. We have to watch it kind of play out through his actions, through his body language.
He's an enigma.
Yeah, but he's not like, again, it's one of those things where if it was too aggressive in one direction, he might come off as too much of a jerk, or even kind of, tread into like toxic masculinity. But the opposite is true. Shima has this warmness about him, where Mitsumi is like a natural, like a force. He's kind of the opposite. He's like a calm breeze. He kind of balances out her, and that's obviously where the show's going in a lot of places.
I was literally thinking of like when I was watching Elemental, the new Pixar movie. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Skippin' Loafer, because she's fire, he's water. Because yeah, seriously, he's go with the flow. He's a little bit more chill. She's kind of fiery, and the Elemental is also about like kind of a romance between two characters who are very different, but the way that like they complement each other.
Yeah, I agree, and the thing that's great about him being kind of the go with the flow, a little bit more relaxed, is when the show does decide to peel back a little bit and kind of let us see his backstory and what his dreams, or maybe the lack thereof, kind of comes from or where his motivations lie. And it's a very interesting way of taking it, to where, you can tell that there's a lot more going on behind, there's a line, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a funny line where another character just straight up in their own head calls him a himbo. That's how he's viewed to them. But it's very clear in every conversation he has with Mitsumi, especially, that that's not true. That's not, like, he gives off himbo vibes for sure. And to be fair, I don't even think that's a derogatory thing when they use that language.
Not anymore.
No, but it's very clear
that
that
Travis.
we've reclaimed it. But he's not an airhead. He's just more thoughtful, and the fact that he's willing to talk about where he's at or where his emotions are, even if it's to a certain degree. It's a healthy representation of how to be someone, and how to be someone growing up. Not to do too much of the whole like men are in trouble thing. But there's a lot of talk, at least in Western cultures right now, about like role models and representation and what masculinity looks like. And I think Shima is a representation of a better way forward for characters in his kind of space. The show resists making him arm candy, even when there are kind of like these little bit of like tensions between certain characters when it comes to like his affections or anything. He's never put it as like he's never himself playing into that or exploiting it for his own gain. He almost tries to diffuse it whenever he can. And I love that about him. Again, he tries to be kind of calm and go with the flow. And he just doesn't want to be confrontational unless he has to.
But there is an episode, right? Yeah, there's an episode about that, and it deconstructs that. And to your point, it's a very important lesson because there are so many guys like that. There's so many dudes who kind of try to like be the nice guy persona when they're really feeling something else and they're not reckoning with it and dealing with it. And then that's when the harshness and the bad stuff comes out. And it's just something that a lot of men can have a lot of trouble with. And so I think that it's a wonderful episode. And his whole arc in particular is really great to see for that reason.
Yeah, I think he's wonderful. Genuinely one of the strongest characters of the season. In a show that frankly has a bunch of them. I don't think there's any weak links here in the main cast at all. There's nobody who feels like they're not getting they're not getting stories told about them. They're not contributing to the main narrative. There's no direct comic relief character. Yeah, there's no typecasting. Everybody's kind of it's like Kaguya-sama makes me think about this as well, where it takes a while to expand that cast in Kaguya-sama comparatively, but when they do, they never go back into the shadows, and I think Skip and Loafer's doing that on like even to maybe an elevated level because it doesn't waste any time getting to that point.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm just going to say it's timely that you mentioned this show since we were watching it this weekend, and talking about how the ensemble brings such enormous it kind of brings the show together. And I do think it's the same thing with Skip and Loafer. Like you mentioned at the very start, there's very few shows that kind of have the same level of very tight main groups like this. Again, Horimiya being one of the few exceptions. But no, I agree. Shima is he's a wonderful character. And to the himbo point, I think that's very much by design of his. I think that's how he wants people to see him because it's easier to float by that way without being confronted by anything. He's one of the reasons I want to go and read the manga too, because I just feel like his storyline is so richly drawn, and I don't know how patient I can be in waiting for the anime to come back. And sometimes I don't know about you, John, but I know we both liked Loving Yamada, and that's one where I just ran and I just started reading the manga because I was like, I like it, but I don't love it to the point where like I need to sit and wait and see it in the way that I've engaged with. Whereas Skip and Loafer, I love so much that I can't tell if I jump and continue reading the story or if I wait to enjoy it the way that I started enjoying it with.
I think the difference for me is that I think that this Skip and Loafer, I'm more tempted because I feel like My Love Story with Yamada-kun tells a pretty complete story, from beginning to end, and I don't feel like I gotta keep going. I feel like I can wait with that one because I feel like they just tied it, and it could keep going, and that's fine. But Skip and Loafer, I feel like we have so much other, like, it feels like we've only scratched the surface of what this is capable of, and that is a compliment to Skip and Loafer comparatively. As much as I love my love story, I think that's a really wonderful anime to check out if you finish Skip and Loafer and you want something else to ease your soul. I would definitely recommend.
That's funny. I guess it's like I'm doing the opposite of what you're doing, but because I also love Skip and Loafer so much, so it's funny how it kind of manifests and leads you. But yeah, no, with loving Yamada, I was like, I need something if I'm not going to have any more of my slice of life shows right now.
I know. I finished Galaxy Next Door. I sent you Pengu the Penguin. That's when you know things have turned sideways, is when I have the sad, grumpy penguin, because I literally finished all 3 of these in the same week. Unacceptable.
Have you tried Insomniacs After School yet, though?
No, I was going to do Oshinoko next. That and Heavenly Delusion.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, because those are the 2 big misses of the spring that everyone's been saying. What are you doing, John? Hurry up, wake up, whatever. And I gotta get this out too, because I'm sure Travis has been curious. Did John cry during Skip and Loafer? I hear Travis typing the message out now. I did. I got very emotional in the penultimate episode. I won't say exactly what happens, but it involves a character and his brother, and that really got me. Like, that just, I love it when a show that is about something else, or thinks it's like supposed to be about one thing, and then it just sneaks up on you with about something completely different, but also totally the same. I was, I had to pause. I had to compose myself. And I think I told you, Allie, when it happened. I was like, Allie.
You did. And you weren't alone. I think that moment got to a lot of us, and in a way that, again, is just very relatable to, it doesn't even have to be relatable. I mean, for me, as somebody who has a much younger sibling, as is the case in these characters, there was a moment that kind of like really hit me in the heart. But yeah, I think that's another sign of just how brilliant the show is that it creeps up on you with these emotions. Like, at first it's just, this is so cute and adorable and I love it, and oh my god, aren't these characters so sweet? And then at the end, there's just a little bit of ugly crying, and it's great.
So I was going to ask, like, on the scale of a little bit of tearing up to a full on, ugly cry, where were the waterworks? But
it wasn't
I think I got my answer.
It wasn't the ugliest of cries, but it was definitely not like when I would not have appreciated someone taking a picture. I'll put that out there. And I just imagine too, because like Allie and I are just so like, Travis, Skip and Loafer. I just like imagine the metaphor of like Travis on the couch, like in between me and Allie, and we're just like, come on, Travis, what do you think of this part? And you're just like frowning. Like,
it makes me think just both of us watching him watch the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not looking at the screen. No.
I know, like, how dare you not react to this the same way you did?
All things considered, I probably will be showing this one to my spouse now that I've watched enough of it to know that it might be cute enough to capture her attention. Because she does do that when it's something like like Kaguya-sama. The reason I haven't finished that yet is because I'm required legally to watch it with her, because she does sit there and watch for my reaction, that exact kind of energy. But real talk, in group chats, it's basically been nothing but like Skip and Loafer for like 4 straight weeks. So I was like, no, I will watch it for this. I will make a point to participate. I understand. As
the one person here with a spouse who does not watch anime, I gotta say, I don't know how you do it, or how you both do it, of like getting each other to watch things. Because I'm like, I've tried everything. Anyway.
Just gonna joke and say, having spouses who like to do nothing more than just watch screens helps. So you might be living a more active and livelier lifestyle, in all honesty.
We do. She goes to press screenings with me. So like she'll go see stuff like that. She's not the biggest anime fan, so. But also, we try to have fun. We try to do fun things every once in a while. But yeah. All right, let's Skip and Loafer. It's on Crunchyroll. obviously highly recommend. We are going into the summer season. We're kind of knee deep in it, honestly. Jujutsu Kaisen's coming pretty soon. I already mentioned that I want to be getting into Oshinoko, Heavenly Delusion, which have already wrapped, but also I gotta admit, I'm very, very curious about this Tsurune business that Ali keeps mentioning. I don't know. But Ali, is there any anime that we haven't talked about that you would want to kind of put out there that maybe is coming out, maybe people should have on their radar? Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, for coming out, we've mentioned it very briefly, but Horimiya, The Missing Places. I apparently. Okay, well that's fine. I love it. Or how about this? I love any excuse to get to hang out with these characters again.
I love Horimiya. I'm just saying I tried watching episode 2. Season 2, episode 1, and it made me upset.
We'll have to get into this further outside of this.
Yeah, all right.
Because I feel like maybe this could take some time to unpack. But no, that is mine for people to get into right now. Honestly, feel like maybe I'm not as excited for the summer season, and I've been going back, and I'm honestly in the middle of rewatch or watching for the first time shows like Ping Pong the Animation and Kill la Kill and Devilman Crybaby. I'm kind of going and like hitting off a lot of the ones that I haven't seen before. And yes, One Piece will come back in that rotation, but you can address Quinn about that because he also gets sucked into things on his own. But for now, I think Horimiya is my main one for the season. Yes, I'll be watching Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know why my interest has died a little bit since the first season. And I'm sure I'll get yelled to that.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
I know why.
No, it's not that, because there's things I've known for a long time, but there's definitely, I don't know, I hope the first episode I'll be like, I was so wrong. I can't believe I doubted it for a second. But I think I've just loved so many kind of smaller shows this year that I'm less like drawn into the Demon Slayers and the Jujutsu Kaisens of the world. But yeah, Horimiya is mine for the season.
I will say, in regards to Demon Slayer, I can confirm even more so than ever that I much prefer the anime to the manga, because I'm about one episode away from finishing the Swordsmith episodes, and it's just there's no comparison. I just do not like the manga, and I mean, no shade to people who do like the manga. It's just not for me. But the anime still killing, still loving that.
Oh yeah, with Demon Slayer, it's a huge. The animation is just a huge elevation. Like what Ufotable is doing is incredible. Apropos of whatever the manga looks like, in my opinion. I will say to the point about Jujutsu Kaisen, it's worth noting that the core that that the season's going to open on is the I guess, how do I put this, the slice of life version of Jujutsu Kaisen, because it is an entire arc dedicated to flashing back to Gojo's high school days, to do a lot of setup. And if you watched Jujutsu Kaisen 0 and got certain vibes from character interactions there, this will only make those vibes stronger. So I
feel like this is where I say, and like, if my sister comes crashing through the door right now overhearing this, this is why. I'm not, like, Gojo's not the selling point of the show for me either, though.
I mean, I like Gojo, but I kind of agree with you there. For me, people
really like Gojo.
They do.
I know.
Yeah. He's like fun Kakashi or whatever. But no, I'm kind of with you. My favorite characters are the three mains, honestly.
Me too. Like, I love Itadori, but I love that character type.
Yeah. The voodoo, like the whole like rock or the hammer and like nail, like that whole weapon like concept is just so brilliant. It's really good.
Kugisaki is best girl. It's
and
just
brutal. It's like such a brutal type of style.
Before we get into tangent upon tangent, Travis, I know we still have a week or so before the One Piece manga returns. And so we still got to figure out what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about. So I don't have any ideas at the moment, but I don't think we really have a strong summer preview that I think we could do. So should we turn it to the listeners? What do you think?
I mean, rookiepirateRadio@gmail.com. Let us know.
Hit us up in the Discord.
Jump in that Discord.
I don't want to do the thing that like, okay, no, I'm not trying to harsh on the YouTubers out there, but like the One Piece YouTubers and like what they've been doing in the meantime, I'm just seeing I know I sent you, Travis, like just scrambling, for content. And I'm like, okay, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be that, podcast, quite honestly.
No, that's what's great about taking time like this to talk about an anime that we otherwise would let completely fall under the radar in this space. And I means I watched it, so that's a good thing. Net positive all across the board.
Do you think we got to do another anime roundtable? Do you think we got to do a Demon Slayer one? Or is that really necessary?
Travis and I might not speak anymore.
Oh man.
We do a hash out of Demon Slayer. That would be a cope session. At that point, you might as well just be a co-host.
Yeah. If you're gonna beat up on Travis and criticize him, yeah, you're taking my role. So that sounds good.
Is it me beating up on him, or is it him having reservations of me publishing an article in which I quote unquote slander what's his face?
That was the other content idea, because I was like, we have the best anime of 2023 so far list coming out, but here's the thing. It is very similar to the spring anime preview we already did, and we've talked about so many of the anime on that list already that I'm like, I guess it's not that. I don't know. Travis, am I wrong? Like, I feel like we wouldn't have much to talk about that's new.
Spoilers, including this anime. It's smack dab right there at the top of the list. So yeah, I can have the Inonosuke defending our session if we want to do that.
Yeah, we got that. Mashal ended up, I would say Mashal probably my anime of the season. I know the Hell's Paradise fans are upset, but just Mashal really took me down, wore me down, did everything. It punched me in the face and I felt it. But yeah, and I still haven't finished Mashal. I think I have one episode left. So yeah, but all right. This episode of Rookie Pirate Radio is over. Thank you as always for listening. Like Travis already mentioned, we're on the Discord. We have our email. All that stuff is in the show notes. We'll be back soon. If you have an idea for an episode for next week or any week, just hit us up. But we'll see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody.